kind of like child labor a little bit. I think it teaches them some values.
Yeah. Get these kids to work.
Yeah, tell Taika to start getting some cobalt.
Honestly, if anyone could benefit from child labor, it's American kids.
Okay, so Apple finally decided to do something about the horrifying conditions of cobalt mining in Africa. Do you know about that?
Yes, I do.
So every single iPhone that you're using has got a battery in it that,
Every microchip.
yeah.
It's not just Apple, it's everything.
Yeah, pretty much everything, yeah. You gotta have cobalt. And how do you get cobalt? You gotta mine for it. But where do you do that? Africa. And who's doing it? Kids.
Yeah.
Oh.
And a lot of poor people.
It's like 20,000 people in this pit.
Yeah.
Everyone's covered in like mud, and they're just hand mining it.
Holy shit.
So that's just one example. So that
When we see scenes like that in America, it's usually Coachella or like a massive.
Yeah.
But out there,
They're working.
it's cold. It's work. You know.
Dang, Cobalt Cello.
It's not Burning Man. It's actual Burning Men and children.
So the crazy thing is they do this like weird thing allegedly to skirt around the international law where like, oh, we can't employ actual children to mine this cobalt, so we'll just leave the mine there if some kids happen to want to go look for it themselves and they want to sell it to us as a free trader or a contractor.
Yeah.
They're on a 1099.
Yeah, 1099.
So they'll just like,
1099,
all of these
like
people are just
$20.
looking for whatever cobalt they can find, and they'll send kids into the smallest holes because none of these guys are mining with the right equipment.
Yeah.
Nobody is using any safety standard. Someone's just gonna make a hole and ask a kid to crawl through it and get it because these people literally don't have a choice, honestly. Like, they were saying like, it's either find cobalt that day or you don't eat.
Dang.
It's like that level of poverty.
That's where I wanted to play devil's advocate, where like I think from our lens it sucks when kids have to work, but like let's say if an adult works and they get cobalt they can eat, but it takes two people to get cobalt so they can have two meals and the other person just so happens to be a kid, and if we don't let kids do that in their specific economy, isn't us taking food away from the kid?
Yeah, but the outrage behind this is that Apple had been denying that this was even happening at all.
And then if Apple knows, then they're like, hey, you should be ethically sourcing your cobalt.
Right.
Instead of, but then there's also the other part of it is like, what if there was no, like, what if these people were starving in general, right? And then now there's industry for them to work. So now they can get food. So like, who knows? I don't know the origin story.
Yeah. Well, it's just like what we saw with those guys. I forgot if it was in Thailand where they had monkeys that they trained to get the coconuts for them, and then people that all the way the fuck over here were like, no, you can't do that because that's cruel. But then they're like, I'm not gonna just stop doing this and not have any income in my village. Like,
And then the monkeys were like, I am hungry.
Yeah. Are you gonna pay for my meals? Are you gonna give me food?
It is a tough call because like, who are you from the first world to tell somebody over there stop doing that thing?
Americans love doing that though, right? Like we love doing that.
No, we get off on that.
We love it because it's like virtue signaling. Like, well, I'm not gonna have an iPhone.
And I don't know the industry enough to where it's like, do the mining companies all like have their own mines and then they illegally buy more because they can't meet demand? And then so they're buying it from like, so like, let's say like, hey, we're buying it from authorized dealers. We don't know where it's coming from, right?
Yeah.
And then the authorized dealer's like, yeah, that's coming from our mine. But then they're the shady ones that are also buying the extra stock from these illegal mines.
Right.
Like, there's so many there's so much nuance probably to it. It's like, how do we know? Like, this one guy tracked a luxury jean company in Europe, and he tracked it all the way to North Korean slave camps.
Whoa.
Because he was like, what they were doing is, and the company didn't know, and then everyone's like, yeah, sure you didn't know. But I'm like, I can see how people cannot know, because like, let's say you're going to a warehouse in China, and this China, you have a contract with to making your jeans, but they have a contract with North Korea to manufacture.
And you're not privy for
No, so you don't know. So you think you're buying it. So you're like, hey, I'm gonna send my denim to this factory.
Right.
So this factory gets it and it goes, your job is to patch it up, put our logo, whatever. And then they're like, well, it's cheaper for us to put this in a container, put it to North Korea, and then they package it whatever. And this is done illegally because they're not supposed to by trade go through that way. And then they just send it there. They send the train back, and it's already done. And then so it's at the warehouse. So it's like there's also they linked a lot of major brands in the US too that does it this way unknowingly because it's going through China first. Or it might be going through other Asian countries that don't have that issue with North Korea.
And for protection of the deal itself, they're not wanting to tell them what's really going on either.
Yeah, no one's asking questions.
We can't work with you guys because you just messed up and told us where you really getting stuff. That's the same deal with tires, how they source the rubber for that. It's like very extremely poor people making this rubber like all the way in Southeast Asia. By the time it gets here, it's marked up insanely, and what they make does not reflect what we sell it for here. But both sides know nothing of the other, or they act like they don't. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
Because it's so far removed. In this case, their solution now, Apple says, okay, here's what we're gonna do. And it does kind of fuck these people over. They're gonna say, all right, for 2025 or whatever, every iPhone will be made from an old iPhone that already exists. So we're not gonna get any more.
Oh, now they don't make money.
So they don't have an economy anymore.
Exactly. So you just like cut out this entire bunch of people that maybe this was all they could do, and it wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
But maybe they would rather do this than whatever other thing is offering.
It's so hard, right?
Yeah, who knows? It's like lesser of two evils. Like they're all bad situations. But you know, again, in a country like this where there's probably very few options, and you've just taken another one away because of something not being up to American standard.
Yeah.
It's an iffy situation.
Yeah.
But then it's like also, we're so detached from the source of things, right? Like the source of meat that we eat, the plastics that we get, everything that builds this, right?
Yeah.
So like, I think like people become shocked when they see the whole
the truth.
the source and the whole like process line,
Supply chain, yeah.
the supply chain, because like the truth is slavery still exists, but in a different form. But like
absolutely.
huge, like economic slavery and all the where the oil comes from, all this stuff, right? And I'm like, how stupid can you be? But then at the same time, I'm like, well, most people don't take the extra time to go from one point to another point to another point to one, and then you go, oh, so this is where it comes from. And then the nuance of like, well, yeah, it's like they're already poor, so now there's opportunity. But then it's like at the same time we want to.
It's exploitative still. Yeah, it's hard.
Even charity, because there's like, hey, we come to these countries and we give them a ton of shoes and clothes, right? And then all the local places that were providing shoes and clothes go out of business.
Because of Tom's.
Yeah.
Fucking Toms.
There was this one story about like this church that really wanted to. There was like a food shortage in this country. It was like in Africa or something. And then they're like, what we're gonna do is just bring a ton of eggs, because like there was just their campaign, like let's give them eggs, right? So then they would send over eggs, or they would buy all the local eggs, whatever. And what it ended up doing was it destroyed like the egg industry in a matter of a year of that country, because of because they flooded the market with eggs, or they bought up all the supply, just gave it to the hungry. And then so like temporarily the businesses were doing well because they're buying it, but then they're like, well, Americans are gonna buy it. I'm gonna jack up the price.
Oh.
And then they're getting it, and then the people are getting it for free, and all this stuff. And then it's like it just ruins the economy by doing it this way. So it's like you can't just flood it with free clothes. Now what are people gonna do? You can't teach a man to fish. They can't build their own industry because they're just getting free T-shirts. So what are they gonna do? They can't sell their own clothes anymore. So it's like
so crazy that like the effects are sometimes unpredictable. Like what happened when I feel like it was a Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation donated a ton of mosquito nets somewhere in Africa or Somalia or something. And what they did was they took those mosquito nets and they turned them into fishing nets and they overfished.
Oh wow!
And it ruined the fish population. Yeah, and they didn't have enough the next season.
You just can't tell, man.
So then they were like, well, now we can't give them mosquito nets because they're gonna turn them into fishing nets. And they stopped doing that.
And then now they're all getting fucking bit and shit.
Yeah, and then malaria spreads, and then that becomes a problem for the bordering nations.
Right.
And it's like, what a crazy like effect.
Ecosystem.
know, right?
Yeah.
or like, well, let's say we do it the right way, right? Where everyone They're unionized. They get their job. They mine the cobalt.
Right. Let's say the dream scenario.
Right?
Yeah.
What if now this is $20,000?
Yeah. See?
Right?
Now
So it's
what?
like-
now what do we do?
Dude, we gotta get those kids back in there. Forget the
I'll
union.
share one with you.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Yeah, you guys want to share?
Can I get a galaxy?
The same thing with chocolate too. I think there's like a lot of like cocoa farms or something it's like basically all child labor. And so all the chocolate we eat.
Well, they know what good chocolate tastes like.
Yeah. Kids love chocolate. They know the
I
freshest
don't want some
cacao.
guy's been smoking cigarettes for 40 years
Yeah.
making chocolate. You can't even taste that.
You know what they
shit.
say? As you get older, your taste buds go away. So
Yeah.
what's better?
Kids
than
know.
getting-
Like everything we enjoy is like either tied to like some sort of child slavery or like violence or something, you know what I mean? Like oil and stuff, it's tied to war.
It is.
You know,
It's
everything is
crazy.
tied to something negative. It's almost like you can't really escape it. So what do you really do?
There's a really strange situation too when a region has an element or a mineral that they have no use for, but you do. That's kind of like they can't do anything with the cobalt there. Like, what are they gonna do?
Yeah, I wish there's like a way or like someone that, because like, you know, the Middle East, they're so ballin' because they got oil. Everyone needs oil. So if somehow they can do that where they're like, okay, cool, everyone needs cobalt and they can build like an empire off of that.
Yeah.
They still need to find some sort of leverage, though. They just don't
Yeah,
have any
it's the leverage. Yeah,
It's the exploitation part of it, because like, let's say you're like Stone Age technology, right? And then you know these like current day nations need oil, but then you don't know how to control your own country yet because you're destabilized. Then it's like, well, it's better to, I guess, like you guys come in and run it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
it
think-
becomes a shady deal.
It's a shady
and then they
deal.
no
Yeah,
longer
yeah,
have
yeah.
control of their own land.
Yep.
And you know what else is scary too is if we're trying to be a superpower and we're like, okay, you know what, we'll pull our businesses out of Cobalt, that area or whatever. China has been like this the whole time.
Yeah. Oh shit.
They're like, see you later, right? And they come in and they'll do, and who knows if
Yeah, because they don't give a fuck.
they don't give a fuck. Who knows if they're gonna have,
Hans bricks. You're breaking my bones.
and then now they're the ones mining all the cobalt. See you later, sucker. And then
Cobalt for us.
yeah, you're like, you know what I mean? Because if it's a destabilized part, it's like all the superpowers are fighting for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn, that's scary, bro.
And that's kind of happening before our eyes right now with a lot of parts of Africa.
Yeah.
It's like a war between not Africa. It's like other people are trying to jack Africa.
Isn't it crazy how like people that don't see that every day, but they're like, oh, but these people shouldn't be, working. These kids, and we agree with that. But it's like if you take that away, then this happens, and then if you take that away, it's
That's
like
why it's
That's
a
the ripple
super.
effect.
Yeah.
But some of those people are the same people that are like, it should be fair, and then they see like all their prices at Walmart's getting
And then
higher,
they complain
and then they're
about
like,
that.
what the fuck? It's
yeah.
like, well, you gotta pay for it. Like,
Yeah.
that's how it works.
yeah.
And I feel like those kids out there in Africa, I think they're way stronger than our American kids, dude.
Hell yeah.
They'll be okay. Our kids, you put our kids to work, nothing's gonna get done. No cobalt's gonna get
They
mined.
suck at the fair when they're doing the panning for gold.
Yeah, bro. Kids are, American kids. Yeah. Dude, you put American kids in the sun for like 20 minutes, you're like, oh, forget. I saw this one viral video of this African kid. He's in the Sudan and he was like working in a mine and he's covered in sand. There's a cow or like a horse or something. peeing.
I saw that.
He walks under the cow like nothing, like it's a fucking shower, and he starts showering in the urine of the.
It's sterile.
cow. No, it's fine, but it's like to him, he's like, yeah, this is normal. But like, you show this to any American out here, they're gonna be like, oh my god, we have to save them. But it's like, yeah, okay, maybe.
But they've been doing that for 1,000 years.
that's how they operate. Like they're a different breed.
That's the trouble with first world values encroaching on like third world issues. That's the hard part.
But the thing is, it wasn't that long ago that families here were mining and fucking.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
Europe, they were mining
Like
and
200
doing.
years ago.
Yeah, we
Not
had.
that long ago, yeah.
Yeah. In 1920, there was like child labor.
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
You see all those black and white pictures of dusty ass white kids and
Yeah.
in coal mines and shit.
But also the life expectancy was also kind of low.
I kind of like child labor a little bit. I think it teaches them some values.
Yeah, get these kids to work.
Yeah, tell Taika to start getting some cobalt.
Honestly, if anyone could benefit from child labor, it's American kids. First world kids.
Taika,
You know what I mean?
Taika has chores to do.
Get them to work.
And what's
You know what I'm
cute
talking
is before he does his chores, he has to put my shoes on. So now he's walking around like these big ass.
He puts your shoes on to do his chores.
Like I just like because a lot of his chores are outside. Like put this away, feed the dog, fill up the dog. So a lot of the outside stuff. And so before he goes outside, he always goes and puts my shoes on. He's outside with like fucking like clown shoes.
I would do that with my dad's shoes as a kid. I think this is a kid thing.
I like the idea of him mocking you like, I'm Bart Kwan.